Hello.
Hello.
What are the validations that we need to do for
Okay.
one-time load testing? What are the validations that
Okay. We need to check the count from source to.
Okay, before that, before the count check, do we need to do anything or not required?
Yes, we have to do, but I not remember.
Those are like DDL checks. So first, before the
Yes.
count, we need to
Details.
check we need to check the column names or all the column names which are in
Column
source.
names, data types. Column data types.
Yeah, the data type also, like if there is length also, even though the data type matches, if the length
Yes.
varies, then again it's an issue. When the data moves from source to target, again it truncates in the data in the target. So we need to check that. Okay.
Okay.
The next what we do. After that, what we do. After the count check, then what we need to do. We have done the DDL check and the count check we have done. Next. Next, we need to see whether any duplicates are there or not.
You should give me the pencil once. Give me the pencil. ఏదో ఒక pencil.
To the DDL check, we are doing count check. After that,
Count check.
we are doing any null values are there.
Duplicates.
Yeah, duplicates. Duplicate, we will check if any duplicate values are coming or not.
Issue pencil.
And after that, there will be some columns where the primary key constraint was assigned and the not null constraint was assigned. So for that constraints, we will check the values, like whether any null value is coming in that particular column or not. Next, after this, what we do? Next, after this, for the complete data validation, what we need to do? I said like for the complete data validation, what we will be doing? What we will be doing for the complete data validation? Which query we will be using in SQL? We will be doing minus. What we will do
Yes.
minus query for that?
We have to use minus query source to destination. B
So we will
minus
be doing if A is source and target is B.
target. Yes.
So we need to do A minus B and B minus A, both we
B
will
minus
perform.
A.
Why we will perform both the things?
If data move completely on, we have to know complete data moving on.
Yes. Yeah, for that one minus is sufficient now. Why we are doing two minus here? A minus B and B minus A. Why we are doing that?
If sometimes some null value is created in the target, so we have to check whether there or not.
Oh. When we do, suppose like when we do a minus query, what would be the result? that you would get. In general, you leave here. When we do a minus query between table A and B, what records it gives? This we
If
have learned
if
already. So what records it gives out in the result?
if same records are there, then it gives the zero.
Okay,
I mean empty.
okay, correct.
Okay.
Or else,
Uh, or if any records are there, I mean if any records are not matching, then it gives that
records
non-matching records.
records are not matching, but those records are in table in table view.
Yes, yes.
Will it give the result or not?
No, if we do A minus B, then it will give the non-matching records from the A only.
Yes, correct. That's why we do A minus B and B
Minus
minus
B
A.
and B minus A.
So you need to tell this thing like when they tell like when they ask you like A minus B is sufficient itself, right? One minus query. Why are you doing two minus means you need to tell the answer, because if you do a minus query, it returns the records even though if it not matches that are in table B, it doesn't returns when you do A minus B. When you do B minus A only, that records returns. So vice versa. That's why we perform source minus destination and destination minus source. After that, what we do? To check manually what we do.
We have to check with the dummy data,
We need to take sample data. Why you will create dummy
sample
data?
data.
Uh,
Sample. We
you
need to
need to
take
say,
sample and
yes, you need to say we need to take some sample data. Suppose if
okay,
1 lakh records are there, then we will check 100 to 200 records. That is like we will be checking like 1 or 2% of the records by using in Excel sheet. we Apart from that manually checking, what can we do? I said some tool we can use it. What is the tool name?
um, it's,
The tool name is Beyond Compare.
beyond.
Beyond Compare is the tool name. I told you to
Okay.
check this is a free source
Yes, yes,
and you
you
can
already
download.
told.
You can download. If you haven't downloaded, just go and see and check and what are the options available in that tool. You just
Okay.
go through, because this tool, if you navigate, that would be useful to you in the later part also. Not
Okay.
only here, uh, if they say like if you have a file to table validation, this is a standard question that you will get in the interview. The question will come like, if you have a file, some with million records, the target is a table. How you do the validation? Either the
Okay.
file format you need to convert into table, or that source table into file. But for converting the file to table again, some job needs to be run and those all things needs to be there. So what you will do is in the target, anyway, this first file was the source file. So that you will upload in the first tab, and the target also you are getting the file that and getting the file in the target would be table. So you can export that table as a file, and you can upload in the second tab in the Beyond Compare tool, and you need to click the compare button in the tool. So it will compare both the things and you can get the result. So you can say in this way when they ask you the question like, how do you do file to table validation? So that is one of the thing. Uh, till now. So these are the validations that we do for the history. For the incremental, if you say what are the additional things that will add, you tell me. Suppose to be specific, I want to do SCD2 validation. What is SCD2?
Slowly changing dimension to.
Yes, SCD means slowly changing dimension. What is SCD2? What it will do in SCD2?
In in SAD2, the record is created in separate row.
Yes, correct. If an update record is there, it updates the existing record
Okay.
and the history would be there also.
It's created.
History of the record also would be maintained. And if an
Yes.
insert comes, like a new record will get inserted in the target. So then what we need to check, we are getting two scenarios here, insert and update. These are the additional things that you would be getting while doing incremental testing. So you have done the one-time load validation. For doing the incremental, for doing the incremental load validation, already what else we require for the history load, like the file you have run already. Like once you run the file, I said like the job ID would be given. If you run the job ID, if you run the job name, the from the already existing file, whatever is there in the server, it picks up the file and the data will move from source to target. Then you are doing like one time load validation. Then for doing the incremental validation, we need some extra data, right? Some extra data should be there, whether it is an insert or update. Without data, you can't do incremental load validation. If the latest file was the history, like whatever you have loaded, maybe 30th August you have done. So you need to ask the developer or the concerned person to check in the production where there was like any latest file available on the top of your existing file. So if you have done the history validation for 30th August, then you need to get an additional file greater than the date of the history validation. So as we are doing here on 30, we need to get the next date file. So we will they will check like which was the latest file available in the production. You need to ask them, or you need to tell them the date. My history validation date was so and so. I need the incremental file. So they will just give the latest incremental file which was available in the production, and they will ingest that file on the top of the current file in the testing environment. You're clear up to here? So why we need to like how we ask for an incremental file? Are you clear? Hello, are you clear on this, or you want me to explain?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Surya, once explain again.
So you are already your history validation. We have seen the different steps what we do for history
Just a
validation.
second, Surya. Surya, 1 second.
Okay.
You should close the.
Mm.
Hello, Surya.
Hello. Yes.
Chapman.
So yesterday we have seen the different steps in history validation or one-time load validation. If you
Yes.
do an incremental validation on the top of the current history data, there should be some extra data, right? You agree on
Okay.
that? Without that, you can't do incremental validation.
Okay.
So for that, what are the things, different things that might be coming? Insert or update of the existing records can happen, or a new record can be inserted. And one more thing, like existing records might get up, that will get again in update only. If the customer is going or the particular patient is going, again that record will be deleted. So these kind of things might happen in the incremental load. For getting the incremental file, we will be approaching to the concerned ingestion team. There would be a separate ingestion team, or in some projects, might be your lead also might get access to the production server to get the latest file. The latest file would be there in the production server. Production server is nothing but the live server which the company was running. So the day to day every files would be there. So like whatever the developer is doing, he will do in developer environment, and we are doing in testing environment. These are not live environments. The production server is the real one, and that is the live environment. From there, we can get the actual data file, the incremental file we say here. So you have done your history validation on 30th. So we need a data file greater than 30th, correct?
Okay.
Then only you can do incremental validation, and the new data would be available in the latest file with the date of the file of the history validation. If we compare, this should be a later date. So we will ask him, I have done the history validation or one-time load validation for so and so date. So here in this scenario, I have done on 30th. So I need a file greater than the current date which was existing in production, needs to be ingested in the this QA server, you will say. Then what they will do is they will just copy that file from the production server into your testing environment, testing server. Then if we run, now you are clear on how to pick the incremental file.
Yes.
So once you get this incremental file, again you will run the job ID what was given to you. Either if the ETL tool is informatica, you will run the job there. If it is a data factory as the ETL tool you are using in project, you will just run the job. Okay, there would be some job number. So once you run the job, the data would be loaded from source to target. As here the incremental one was the latest file, the code picks the data from the latest file and it loads into the target. So now what will happen? If any new data is there, the count gets very red, whether some insert is happening or the update is happening. So again, you can check the count. How you will check the count here? You won't check the total count. Here, once any new data is coming in, generally they will partition it. There would be some partitioning column for the incremental update. Partitioning column is nothing but with respect to that column, new data would be created. You understood what is partitioning column? Or not clear? So suppose I say a batch date was the partition column for my table. So for the history data, what you have done, that is your batch ID, like the total data one time load you have done on 30th 8 2022. generally it will create like this timestamp. um, like this something number would be created, some timestamp would be created like this for the batch ID. So this is the history data. When you run the incremental data, as here the partition column in this table is your batch ID. So when you run this new file, the batch ID would be created as with the today's date. Whatever the data is coming newly or the updating things, it will create with the new number. So if a new partition is column is created, can we segregate using a select command? Can we do that? Is that possible? What you will do, the scenario is with this new batch ID, when you are running the job, the new data is creating with the column batch ID, some with a new number. Like how do we segregate? How do you get the new data with the SQL command? What you will do? Which command you will use? I said like the new data is created with the batch ID number. The batch ID was column was there in the table, and the new number was updating for the incremental data. So to fetch the new data, what you will do? What SQL command you will use? What you will use? I was telling like in the batch ID column, this new value was coming. So with respect to a value in a particular column, if you want to fetch the data, what command you will use in SQL? This is a basic thing that we have discussed initially itself. This is nothing but filtering only, right? For filtering, what command you will use? Which clause you will use for filtering the data?
Group clause.
Group clause you will use if you want to perform an aggregate function with respect.
Yeah, no.
Prior to that, to see only the complete data, what you will use?
Uh,
Will use where clause, right? First
where
you will
clause.
use, yeah, what you will do? Where batch ID is
Uh,
equal to, you will use this number.
use. Yes, 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 yes.
Simple.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to see the new data, what was coming in, select star from
From
table
table
name you will
name.
give,
Where.
where batch ID, column name, this
Batch.
new ID was creating.
Yes,
Where batch
batch
ID
ID.
is equal to, that's it. Just think in a
Hmm.
general way. Mostly, if there are no transformation, very basic queries only would be used for this validation. We
Okay.
have seen all other things because that things you need to know. If there are some complex transformation or something was there, you need to club all those things. That's why like whatever I covered the things also, that is also 60% only, not 100%
Mm-hmm.
SQL. But those things are required. So that's why I covered. But if you want a more proficiency in SQL, you can learn on your interest. But whatever the things I thought, those are like minimum required things.
Okay.
So where batch ID is equal to, you will give the this current number. Then what you will get here? The latest data, what was there, what was created with this batch ID, you will get. So the new insert or update record, like whatever is there, you get. Then what you can do? You can do a count star and you can check the count also with respect to source and target. What was there in the source and what was there in the target. Both the things you will get, right? You agree or not here?
Yes.
Whatever the validations you are doing for the incremental one, you will just add at the end where, that's it, where batch ID is equal to. If you are checking the count, where batch ID is equal to. If you are checking the duplicates, where batch ID is equal to. If you are doing the null, where batch ID is equal to. At the end, you will just leave a clause like this for the incremental validation. So obviously the incremental data would be get validated, like, because you are filtering the data and you are validating it. Correct?
Yes.
So whatever you do, no need to do here again DDL check, because anyway history you are checking, like, so the file, the code was running correctly, so all columns are coming. So no need to do a DDL check for the incremental validation. So directly you will do count check, duplicate check, or the data validation. Data validation, like, without using where clause only you can do MNSB and BMNSA. If in MNSB and BMNSA some records are coming, there itself you raise a bug. After that bug fixing only, when it was not returning any results only, you will go for incremental validation. Incremental validation also you can do again MNSB and BMNSA. So in the incremental testing, if some problem is there, then again this complete data validation will return records, or else it won't return. After that you will be doing sample data validation. Sample data, what you will check for the incremental data only you will check, not for the old data. So while taking the sample data with respect to other where clauses what you have created, but here you won't check, like, for the incremental file only some 100 records are there. If in the history, that is like complete history, right? So if it is having 1 records, might be every day the incremental file get generated, might be 10 records or 20 records, those only might be there. So from that 20 records only, it's your wish. As it is less records, you can check the complete records, or at least some 25% of the new records which are created on the incremental file. You can use a where condition. You'll be using where condition to sort out the records from 100 records to 25. And apart from that, and you will add another clause where like batch ID clause also you will add. So you are doing the sample data check only for the incremental data. So that is clear. So all the validations are covered, right? No, for the incremental one. So are there any doubts for you? So how we do the history validation and how we do the incremental validation? So on both these things, you need to have some specific clarity, because most of the projects, this incremental thing you need to check if it is a migration project. The incremental data validation also, they ask, like, how you do the SCD type testing. This is again a common question that would be popped at you in the interviews. This also they call as a delta testing. So what we do in incremental testing? Can you just tell? What is a partitioning column? Hello? What is a partitioning
Also,
column? I said, like, what is a partitioning column? I have explained, right? What is a partitioning column?
mm,
Partitioning column is nothing but you are creating partition for that data. Partition for that data means, like, the old data was created. If a new data was coming in, a new number would be created for the new data.
new data.
So we are partitioning the data, right? So if you use this number in that particular partition, what is the data is coming? You can check it, right? You understood like what is meant by a partitioning column. They will say like they will give a table and the partitioning column is so and so, they will mention in your mapping sheet or the requirement sheet, whatever. So shouldn't go and ask like what is what is meant by a partition column. A new number would be created when the incremental data comes in. That's it. You are dividing the data, like if the new data, like whatever the new data is coming with respect to a particular file, you can easily know, you can easily like what you say, you can easily know what was the data coming with respect to that particular file. It's a marking kind of thing, you say, you can say. So for this particular date file, this is the number. In that, like if you some requirement is come and some source file was wrong, so you need to delete the target data. If they say, then how you fetch, how you can say like with which date you will go and check, like if there is no partition column or there would be like no history, right? So if you can easily delete like this particular date data and data is wrong, if they say, then you can easily you will just use the delete command for that table where batch ID is equal to, you say it'll, so the obviously the data would get deleted, right? If nothing was mentioned, like how you identify the data, you can't identify, right? With, you can say this as an identification number. So for that particular file, this is the data coming and this is the identification number for that data. So that is nothing but the partition column. That data would be there in the partitioning column. So now you understood what is a partition column, at least. Hello, is it clear now?
Yes, Surya.
Okay, that's it. So whatever the validations you do, you will do with respect to where batch ID is equal to, you will do like count, duplicate, null, the total data or the sample data, whatever you give, whatever is there, you will just give that batch ID and you will do the validations. Apart from DDL check, all other validations we will perform for the incremental also. So now we have covered both history validation and incremental validation. Have you done the queries? Like yesterday I have given an assignment. Have you done? You are getting any issue or you have done the queries? 2 queries I told to write, right? You have done that?
Yes, Surya. No, Surya.
Just do that because that is like they ask that. That's why if you're not getting, you tell me, like we will just do it in the class. So tomorrow you just
Sure.
definitely do that 2 queries and get me. So that's it in the class. So we have covered history and incremental. So next we will see like what are the different types of ETL bugs and all things we will look at. And if there are any transformations, how we validate those all things we will cover in the next class. Okay. To just
Okay.
do the queries and get me those queries, 2 queries.
One
Okay.
for deleting the duplicate and another for.
Single query for deleting the duplicates and another query using a row number function to get the duplicates.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay then. Yeah. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Hmm.